Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Dimbola Lodge Phantom Photography Studio. Holly Arnold had always been captivated by the art of photography. The magic of capturing a moment in time, preserving it forever, had drawn her to this craft from a young age. When she received the news that she had inherited her great-uncle's photography studio on the Isle of Wight, she was ecstatic. Dimbola Lodge was not just any studio, it was a place steeped in history and mystery, once owned by the famed Victorian photographer Julia Margaret Cameron. Holly arrived at the Isle of Wight on a misty autumn morning. The sea was a sullen grey, matching the overcast sky. She navigated the winding roads that led to Dimbola Lodge, its imposing Victorian architecture looming against the backdrop of the restless ocean. The lodge was a sprawling building, its windows like dark eyes watching her approach. A shiver of excitement mixed with trepidation ran down her spine as she unlocked the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The interior was a blend of faded elegance and eerie decay. Dust motes danced in the beams of light filtering through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the walls. Holly's footsteps echoed in the silence as she explored the studio, her fingers tracing the intricate woodwork and antique furnishings. The air was thick with the scent of old paper, leather, and a faint hint of something else, something she couldn't quite place. In the heart of the lodge was the dark room, a place that would soon become her sanctuary. As she unpacked her equipment, she noticed an old, ornate cabinet in the corner. It was filled with glass plate negatives and sepia-tone portraits, each meticulously labeled with names and dates. Curiosity piqued, Holly began to examine the photographs. The first portrait she developed was of a stern-looking woman in Victorian attire, her eyes cold and lifeless. As Holly watched the image emerge in a developing solution, she felt an odd chill in the air. She could have sworn she saw the woman's eyes shift slightly, following her movements. Dismissing it as a trick of the light, Holly continued her work. Over the next few days, Holly developed more photographs, each one revealing faces from the past, faces that seemed to harbor secrets. There was a young girl with a haunting smile, an old man with eyes full of sorrow, and a middle-aged couple whose expressions were frozen in a moment of fear. Each time she developed a photo, the atmosphere in the studio grew heavier, the air colder. One evening, as she was developing a particularly unsettling photograph of a young boy holding a toy soldier, the lights flickered and went out. Holly fumbled for a flashlight, her heart pounding. When she turned it on, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The boy in the photograph was no longer alone. Behind him stood a shadowy figure, its face obscured, but its presence palpable. Holly dropped the photo, her hands trembling. She could feel eyes on her, an oppressive weight pressing down on her chest. Gathering her courage, she picked up the flashlight and scanned the room. The beam of light revealed nothing out of the ordinary, but the feeling of being watched persisted. Determined to uncover the truth, Holly delved into the history of Dimbola Lodge. She discovered that her great-uncle had been obsessed with capturing the souls of his subjects. He believed that photographs could trap a person's essence, binding them to the image forever. His experiments had attracted many curious and desperate individuals, each hoping to cheat death or achieve immortality through his lens. As Holly pored over her great-uncle's journals, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. The faces in the photographs were not just portraits, they were the spirits of those who had come to the studio, seeking to be immortalized. Instead, they had been trapped, their souls bound to the lodge, unable to find peace. One night, while developing a particularly old and faded photograph, Holly felt a presence behind her. She turned slowly, her breath catching in her throat. Standing in the doorway was the boy from the photograph, his eyes pleading, the toy soldier clutched tightly in his hand. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, he pointed to the darkroom cabinet, his eyes wide with fear. Holly approached the cabinet, her hand shaking. She opened it and found a hidden compartment at the back. Inside was a collection of letters, each one detailing the fates of those who had come to Dimbola Lodge. The letters spoke of despair, of souls trapped and tormented, unable to move on. Realizing the gravity of what she had inherited, Holly knew she had to set things right. She spent the next few weeks researching ways to release the trapped spirits. She learned of a ritual that involved developing each photograph in a special solution and reciting an incantation that would free the souls. One by one, she performed the ritual, watching as the spirits appeared before her, their faces softening with relief and gratitude before fading away. The boy with the toy soldier was the last. As she completed the ritual, he smiled at her, his eyes full of hope. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Then he was gone, the photograph dissolving into nothingness. With each spirit released, the atmosphere in the lodge lightened. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a sense of peace. Holly felt a profound sense of accomplishment and relief. She had not only uncovered the dark secrets of Dimbola Lodge, but had also freed the souls trapped within its walls. As Holly prepared to leave the Isle of Wight, she took one last look at the lodge. It no longer felt eerie or foreboding. Instead, it seemed like a place of quiet rest, its dark history finally laid to rest. She knew she would carry the memories of her experience with her, a reminder of the power of photography and the importance of respecting the souls it captures. Holly drove away, the mist lifting to reveal a clear sky. The sea sparkled in the sunlight, and the island seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Dimbola Lodge, once a place of haunted memories, was now a beacon of peace, its secrets uncovered and its spirits free. Holly returned to her life, but the memories of Dimbola Lodge lingered. The faces from the photographs haunted her dreams, their stories intertwining with her own. She began to notice things in her photographs that she had never seen before, subtle shadows, faint outlines, and glimmers of light that seemed almost alive. These experiences only deepened her fascination with the connection between photography and the supernatural. A year passed, and Holly had become a well-known photographer, her work celebrated for its eerie beauty and emotional depth. She often thought about the spirit she had freed and the lessons she had learned. However, one day, a letter arrived that would change everything. The letter was from an estate lawyer on the Isle of Wight. It informed her that another part of Dimbola Lodge had been discovered during renovations, a hidden basement that had been sealed off for decades. The lawyer believed it might contain more of her great-uncle's work and invited her to come and inspect it. Holly's curiosity got the better of her. She travelled back to the Isle of Wight, feeling a mixture of excitement and dread. When she arrived at Dimbola Lodge, she found it much as she had left it, though the atmosphere was lighter and more welcoming. The lawyer greeted her and led her to the hidden basement. The basement was dark and musty, filled with old furniture, trunks, and more photographs. Holly's heart raced as she began to explore. She found more journals, detailing her great-uncle's increasingly desperate attempts to perfect his soul-capturing technique. She also found photographs that were unlike any she had seen before, images that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. As she developed these new photographs, Holly realized that her great-uncle had gone further than she had imagined. He had not only captured the souls of his subjects, but had experimented with binding multiple souls to a single image, creating a twisted tapestry of torment. These photographs were darker, more chaotic, and filled with anguish. One photograph in particular caught her eye. It depicted a large group of people, their faces contorted with fear and anger. As she watched, the image began to shift, the faces moving and changing, as if struggling to break free. Holly felt a surge of panic. These spirits were not at peace, they were trapped in a nightmare. Determined to help them, Holly delved into her research once more. She found references to an ancient ritual that could release multiple souls bound together. The ritual required a rare and powerful herb, only found in the deepest parts of the island's forest. Holly set out to find it, guided by old maps and her instincts. The forest was dense and dark, but Holly pressed on. She eventually found the herb, growing in a secluded grove bathed in an ethereal light. With the herb in hand, she returned to Dimbola Lodge and prepared for the ritual. It was more complex than the ones she had performed before, requiring precise timing and concentration. As she began the ritual, the room grew cold and the air thick with tension. The faces in the photograph writhed and twisted, their silent screams echoing in her mind. Holly chanted the incantation, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. The photograph began to glow, the light intensified until she had to shield her eyes. When the light faded, the photograph was blank, the souls released. The room felt different, calmer, lighter. Holly slumped to the floor, exhausted but relieved. She had done it. She had freed the tortured spirits and put an end to her great-uncle's dark legacy. Holly spent the next few days cataloguing the remaining photographs and journals, ensuring that no more souls were trapped within Dimbola Lodge. She then donated the collection to a museum, along with detailed notes about the spirits and the rituals she had performed. She wanted the world to know the true history of the lodge and to prevent such horrors from happening again. As Holly left the Isle of Wight for the final time, she felt a sense of closure. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, her understanding of photography and the supernatural forever changed. The spirits of Dimbola Lodge were free, and she had found peace in knowing she had made a difference. Years later, Holly's work continued to captivate and inspire. Her photographs were celebrated for their depth and emotion, each one a testament to her journey and the lessons she had learned. She never forgot the faces of the spirits she had freed, and their stories lived on through her art, a haunting reminder of the power of photography and the importance of respecting the souls it captures. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.